Hello my friends, what's up and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video, which is going to be a Glowish by Huda Beauty video on her Multi-Dew and her Soft Radiance bronzer. This is not going to be a first impressions because I've already tried this stuff out. I've already used it. But we are going to put this on together and talk about how the products work so that you know if they're right for you. So if you're interested in seeing how these products work for me, what shades I picked up, all of that good stuff, then just keep on watching. So if you weren't aware, Huda Beauty released this Glowish line, which is a kind of combination of her makeup line and her Wishful line. And the whole premise is that it's like super natural, it's good for your skin, it's sustainable packaging, just very natural coverage, which is kind of a departure from what she usually does because she usually does full on glam. But this is a dewy product, which again, also kind of is a departure, I think, for her. I guess because in my mind, her foundation is very matte and very, very full coverage. So we're going to talk about this bad boy. This is the Multi-Dew Skin Tint. I've seen it also marketed as tinted skin moisturizer. So I guess it could go either way. For reference, I picked up shade 02 Fair Light, which I know sounds light, but it actually works. And then I picked up 02 Medium in the bronzer. And that's just because in looking at the stock photos, the light version looked a little too light. So especially because of the formula, I figured it was going to take a little building up. So that being said, let's go into a couple of descriptions and pricing, all of the details. So the actual skin, what is this called again? The skin tint was $37. That's a little pricey, I think, for a skin tint, but if it's got like all the extra additives, then I guess it's good. But it's 1.35 fluid ounces, which is slightly more than you would get in a typical foundation. For reference, I've got a couple of other skin tints here with me, and the Fenty, for example, is 1.08 fluid ounces, and the Say is 1.35 as well. I can't remember how much I paid for the Say. I think it was a little bit less, but I could be wrong on that. So that's what we've got going on there. As far as other little details that you may want to know, I'm looking for the expiration date. So it's 12-month shelf life. It's made in Italy, which a lot of people love. And then it's a dewy glow, healthy looking skin, fragrance free, which I know for a lot of y'all is huge because Huda typically does the fragrance. So the premise of Glowish is that it's the love child of Huda Beauty and Wishful, where flawless finish intersects with skin-caring ingredients for the ultimate glow up. So it's probably why it's a little more pricey. You've got a lot of skincare ingredients in there. And then as far as directions, it says wear alone for an all-over healthy glow. Apply to center of the face and blend outward, which I did watch her video and that is what she did. Or add to your favorite foundation to boost luminosity. That's what we've got there. And then as far as the bronzer goes, it is, let's see. Oh, I also want to share something else with you, but it is an 18-month shelf life and it is also made in Italy. For reference, here you get 0.28 ounces. This one was 31, I think 31 or 32. You guys know, I will link it down below. For reference on both of these, one of the things that she was very big on is the sustainable packaging. So you'll see that this one does not have a mirror. And so this is 30% sustainable packaging. It's called PCR, and I forget what that stands for. I know it's here on the box, post-consumer recycled material. So as far as the skin tint, it's got 25% of that. Of course, it's vegan, non-animal tested. She never tests on animals. And then clean, naturally derived ingredients. So very natural. I know that the clean at Sephora has to be a certain criteria as far as like no more than a certain number of ingredients. I didn't think to check if that was, but again, I will put the links in the description box below, and that way you know it's an easy click. For reference, for those of y'all who have asked me about magic links, I appreciate it so very much. I was not approved for magic links, so I'm assuming it's because the channel is still so small. So any way, shape, or form that you can help me grow would be greatly appreciated. But for those of you who have asked, that is the deal on that. So I keep on putting just the regular links for you so that you can just easily go to the site. So with that, let's go ahead and start putting this on. Fair light, I know seems kind of light. Maybe I could have gone a little bit deeper, but I think this one works for me. Let's put these bad boys on so that you can see how they work and I can let you know how they work for me, how I'm liking them, all of that good stuff. So starting off, I'm going to squeeze a little bit on the high points of my face, so each cheek and the forehead. Now, I am doing this in the same way that Huda demonstrated in her video on YouTube, and I have to tell you, it made all the difference in the world. Prior to doing this, I was like slathering the stuff on just because it's very light coverage, and it was just looking streaky and very unattractive. This method made all the difference. So really just placing it down and kind of feathering it out. This is the Fenty brush. I forget what it's called, but it is the foundation brush, the one that looks like the little bear claw, and it's perfect for it. So I did put a little bit, obviously, on my nose and my chin. She did not do that in the video. For me, my nose can be very red, so there's no option. I need a little bit more in that area. So again, just fanning it out just wherever I see little bare spots, but this is very minimal coverage. So it's not like you're going to need to blend a ton down your neck or anything like that, because it's so light coverage that the tint is really going to blend into your skin, if that makes any sense at all. So I am using concealer. I already went in with a color corrector by Fenty. I've got really dark under eye circles right now, you guys. I don't know what's happening, but going in with a little bit of the Fenty concealer, and I'm literally just going to let that sit because I want it to get a little bit thicker in coverage. So let's go in with the bronzer now, the Soft Radiance bronzer. Now, here I'm deciding what brush to use because I had already tried a couple of others and I wasn't sure that I was crazy about how they were working. So I'm using a denser brush. This actually was perfect. But you notice how I'm kind of like rigorously going in. There is no fallout whatsoever. Now, I'm sweeping down because, again, that's how Huda kind of demonstrated in her video, and then sweeping it down my face. She didn't do the whole, let me buff it into the skin, which again, I hadn't watched the video the first time I used this, and that's what I did. I was buffing it into my skin. I was like, I don't know. Even though I liked the coverage and the finish from the get-go. But I did notice after trying this method, again, made so much difference. I liked it to begin with. I loved it once I started using it in this way. So it's very hard to mess this up. It is so forgiving. It's very effortless, I think is the word. It just gives you a beautiful, glowy radiance in a very warm way. It warms up the skin, just, it's perfect. It doesn't look like I tried too hard, doesn't look like I slapped up on some bronzer. No, it's just, it's perfect. It kind of just melts into the skin, really what I would expect a highlight to do. I did go in with a second layer. This is a very light bronzer, lightweight, and the tone is also light. So 2 layers does it for me. Again, you're going to hear this from me like 2 or 3 times in this video. Go a step up in your tone. So if you're usually light, go up to light medium. I'm so glad that I made that decision. Now it's time to blend in the concealer. It's gotten nice and thick, and it's going to cover very, very nicely. I like how concealer looks with this product, with the skin tint. I will say though that my concealer creased. That's nothing to do with the skin tint because I didn't go under my eyes with the skin tint. That literally is because I placed the skin or the color corrector underneath, and that typically happens. Once I set it, I'm good to go. So I didn't set my under eyes on camera, went off camera to do it, but definitely no issues whatsoever related to the skin tint. If you are wondering, I am using a Rare Beauty concealer brush, which I have found to be my most favorite concealer brush of life. So now I'm just going back in, no extra product, just with the brush I used to smooth out the skin tint. I'm just kind of blending that concealer with the rest of the tint just because it was looking a little stark, and I just kind of wanted to mesh it all together. We're going to go in with cream blush today, you guys. So exciting. Okay, one of my favorites is Say. I love their dew blushes. So dew upon dew, because we've got the dewy skin tint and the dewy blush. So this particular one is in the shade Rosy. I'm putting this on the back of my hand. You guys know I typically put the applicator right on my face, but in this case I didn't want to lift up any product because the skin tint is already very light coverage to begin with. So I opted to just put it on the back of my hand, which I was very glad with that decision. It ended up working out so nicely. This layered over top of that skin tint beautifully. I mean, the glow was real, you guys. A dewy product over a dewy product, you're going to get a whole lot of dewy, and I was here for it. So if you're in the same boat as me and you like that kind of finish, then you will really enjoy using cream products over top of this skin tint, especially if they have a dewy finish. For reference, I'm using a Real Techniques cream blush brush. I don't remember what it's called. I got it at Marshall's a long time ago. I love this brush. It really is perfect at applying cream products. So this is what we're looking at like up close. It's very light coverage, as I've mentioned. Now there's veins, I'm about to point out to you, that right there that I can see peeking through, that a medium coverage foundation will typically cover up. In this case, I can definitely see them. Not a deal breaker, just kind of one of my things, but that's really it. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it helped you out to see not only the demo as far as how the products worked on me, but also the tones in the shades I picked out and how they work for my skin tone in case you are similar or the same skin tone. So let's go ahead and talk about my final thoughts on these products, as well as just a couple of comparisons so that you know, so if you have a couple of the other products that have recently released, you know if you need this or not. So first off, this is a very dewy product, which I'm here for. I love looking like a glazed donut. So for me, it is awesome. Now, she also markets it as being able to mix it in foundation. I honestly haven't done that, and I kind of don't plan to. Like, if I buy a product like this, it's because I mean to use it as its own thing. I don't want to have to be mixing, and I feel like that's just too much for me. Some people think nothing of it. So it is very, very dewy, and it's lightweight coverage to the max. Now, a couple of things. One is that the first time I used it, I went in with way too much. So when I was trying to blend it out, it was looking streaky, like your typical skin tint. It was looking very just messy, and I didn't want to use a sponge because a sponge will soak up all the product. So it's pointless to use a sponge. But the game changer for me was watching the video in which she applies this and the method in which she applies it. After that, it was such amazing results. Like, I was like, oh, this is how this is supposed to work, which is weird because for such light coverage, you would think you would need to go in with more product as opposed to just the little bit that I put on. And I think she put on even less, to be honest. But that method of just putting a little bit kind of at the high points and then fanning it out just made all the difference in the world. Now, of course, it's not going to give you any kind of like medium coverage. It is the lightest coverage. So if you've got problematic skin, I don't know how that would work. However, it does have those skincare like ingredients to where if you did want to mix it in to give you that added dew, then you could certainly do that. So it kind of plays a two-part. It kind of appeals to a number of people. It's not just, oh, here's a light skin tint and you have to have perfect skin to use it. You can mix it in to be able to get you a little bit more of maybe the finish that you're wanting. But when I came up close, I was like really pointing to this area because I've got some veins right here that if I'm not wearing a medium cover foundation, then this will really peek through. But that is pretty much the extent of it. So for me, when I use it in the way that Huda uses it, the way that she recommends using it, it makes such a difference and it looks absolutely lovely. Now, in comparing them to a couple that I already have, I would say it reminded me a lot of the Say, although I think the Say might have even a little bit more coverage. But this one is definitely dewier than the Say. So it's kind of like, what do you prefer? Do you prefer more dew or do you prefer a little more coverage? So I think very comparable, but definitely a lot more dewy, or a lot dewier. And I love a good dew. So I will find tons of times tons of excuses to use both of these, and I like each of them for what they can offer. Now, as far as the Fenty definitely has more coverage. I think for a skin tint, the Fenty has a crazy amount of coverage, and I like that. You guys know that I loved this product. So I think, again, you're gonna have to decide whether more coverage or a whole lot less coverage, but more dew. This one also has kind of like a blurring effect. So it's kind of the more basic foundation, the more natural foundation, kind of the foundation for beginners, if you will. So I love this one too. If I had to choose, honestly, I think I would pick this one only because it has a little more coverage, and sometimes honestly, that's what I'm looking for. But again, once I realized how to use this the right way, I was like, this is actually kind of nice. It is expensive for what it is. It's $37, so take that for what you will. You might say absolutely not. So I don't know. This is, for me, again, the first time I was like, I don't know that I like this too much. Then I figured out how to use it, and I liked it a whole lot more. So let's talk about the bronzer. I love this bronzer very much. This is the epitome. This is the definition of an effortless bronzer. It's hard to go overboard with this, and it's a very interesting formula. Like, it's stiffly packed in there, but I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It doesn't in any way feel like a cream. It's definitely a powder. It doesn't feel silky or anything, but it feels pretty smooth, and you get a very just effortless, blurring almost bronzer type of just glowy finish. Like, glowish is the perfect term for it. And I honestly think this is probably going to be the bronzer that I reach for the most. I would compare this in level of effort to my Ilia bronzer, which has been my #1 favorite lately, of just throwing on. I don't have to worry about blending too much. I don't have to worry about it looking too harsh. And that was the very first thing I thought of the very first time that I used this. It is effortless. You do kind of have to sweep. Like, I wouldn't go in really rigorous and kind of, you know, swirl it around. There really isn't any fallout or anything. I think it's just because it's so stiffly packed in there. So sweeping motions, and then sweeping motions on the face as well. And again, that is me kind of going in the same method that Huda used when she demonstrated this in her video. So definitely very effortless, easy to use. I would highly recommend going a step up your normal shade, because this is medium, and even then I can layer a couple of times before really getting the effect that I want, really getting the bronze look that I want. It's not even bronze, it's just like warmed up, like my face warmed up a little bit, and it's just it's seamless. It's very easy to work with. This one was definitely from the get-go a win for me. I am so glad that I picked this one up. But again, I highly recommend going up a shade just because of the formula. It's a little stiffer. You kind of got a layer. I will also say that I'm very happy with the tone of this one. I had read up on this. I had read reviews and things like that. And I heard people say, or not I read people saying that the light runs a little bit red and the medium runs a little bit more neutral. So that kind of sealed the deal for me in wanting the medium shade, and I'm so glad that I did, because I'm not really a fan of more red tone bronzers. Neutral is what I prefer, and this seems to do it for me. So that's what we've got going on there. I hope that this was in some way, shape, or form helpful. I struggled on picking out the shade, so hopefully the fact that you know this shade works well for me, if you're my same skin tone, you'll know that it works for you too. Alrighty, my friends, well, with that, I will leave you with a quick verse of the day just to encourage you and motivate you. Today's comes from James 1:12, and it says, "Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him." Alrighty, my friends, well, thank you again for stopping by. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I will see you in the next video. So until then, stay safe and stay well. I love you very much, but please remember that Jesus loves you so much more. I'll see you soon. Bye.